Hi there. My name is Tatiana, and this is Drew next to me.
Hi.
We've decided to create a video here for our followers who are newbies, maybe, and have a lot of questions. Not only people who've been diving for a while now. And it's gonna be chatty podcast kind of a thing where a newbie like me who has 4 dives will ask a professional who how many dives you have now.
I have something somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 dives.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more than I have. So I'm just gonna randomly ask questions that are most of us have in mind. Sometimes they will be ridiculous, sometimes not, and we'll see how it's gonna work. We have one mic. We're Zoomers here, so that's how we're gonna do it. So, Drew, first question that I'm gonna ask is how to choose a dive shop where I do my course, and what course I need to start with. Like, is it open water? Is it discovery? What's the difference between them?
That's a great question. It kind of depends on you. For choosing a dive shop, a lot of people will just kind of like Google the first dive shop they find. That's what I did. You go with the first one that pops up because that's easy and you're lazy. You don't want to look at any other things. If you're trying to choose the right dive shop, you can do a lot of research online. But the main thing is, if you're able to, go to the dive shop and just kind of like get a feel for it, right? Every shop is going to specialize in different things. You know, some dive shops do everything. Some dive shops just focus on one specific thing. And every instructor is really different. So if you have the chance to talk to some of the instructors, that really helps. And then you can feel out like, oh, okay, this person, communicates well for me, or maybe they don't, or, you get a good idea if you guys are going to get along. As far as courses go, the beginner course you must take to be a certified scuba diver is the open water diver course, which allows you to dive to 18 meters or 60 feet without an instructor present. You have to have a dive buddy. And most people will take that as their first thing. You can do a slightly lesser version of that where you need to have a guide with you, but you don't have to do anything else in order to go diving. But if you want to be a certified scuba diver, then open water diver course is the first one that you have to take.
Sorry, follow-up question. And what does certification means for me? Like, okay, I become like, because I can also go somewhere and just do discover scuba dives anywhere, right? Why do I need to get the certification?
The main reason why is because the open water diver course covers almost all of the skills and scenarios that could happen on a dive, especially for beginner divers. And the certification allows you to go diving without an instructor. And the reason they do that is so that, one, you can rent gear and go diving on your own, but it also means that when you're on a dive trip somewhere warm, let's say, like, because we're in Canada, you want to go somewhere
By the way,
yeah, it's wintertime, it's raining, it's awful. If you don't like that, you can go somewhere warm like Thailand or Mexico. And it means that you've done all those skills so that when you sign up for a dive trip, the person who's leading the dive trip knows, okay, this person's at least got the fundamentals down.
right.
They're not going to be a complete liability. The Discover Scuba dives are totally fine if you just want to experience scuba diving. But it doesn't make you a scuba diver, right? Because you don't cover things like emergency out of air drills. You don't cover, most of the time they don't really spend a lot of time on buoyancy. So I've seen a lot of times where you go to the tropics and there's a dive guide with a fistful of SPGs. And he's just dragging divers through the water like balloons.
Right.
Which, if that's the experience you want, that's fine. But if you do want to be a self-sufficient scuba diver, you do have to start with the course.
I guess it is a really good option though, in case if I'm not sure if I want to get certified or not. It's also like it costs quite a bit, to be very honest. And some, like, I have my mom, for example, who's like almost 6 years old, and well, why would I spend $700 on certification if I'm not even sure if she will be able to, breathe out underwater, not freak out underwater and stuff like that. We're all different, so. Discover Scuba Dive is definitely a first step where to see if you're okay in the water or not. Now, what's the requirements for? Do I need to know how to swim?
Yes. Um,
Okay, thank you for that answer. That
yeah.
was really, really important. Why do I need to know how to swim, Drew?
So yes, you absolutely do need to know how to swim. The open water course, so you don't actually technically have to know how to swim for Discover Scuba, but because it's not a certification that allows you to go diving on your own, it doesn't really matter. For open water, you have to know how to swim. You have to do a 200-meter swim nonstop. Any style, any speed, it doesn't really matter. You just have to be able to do it. And you have to be able to tread water for at least 10 minutes without touching the edge of the pool or standing on the ground. The main reason why we do that is because an easy example would be, let's say you're on a dive trip and there's a bunch of waves, guy turns really fast, you fall off the boat. You're not always going to be in your scuba gear. You need to be able to survive long enough for that person to come around, and it's not going to be like a scary experience. Yes, falling off the boat's not ideal, but you do have to have some ability in the water in order to scuba dive.
Okay, that's a good thing. Now, another question that I have, a part of those basic ones, is, well, let's say something happened, and in the morning I do feel funny in my stomach. So we have that thing in my mouth, like a regulator. It says, right, and like lots of other stuff. So I look like a dark waiter or something. Um, what happens if I get sick during the dive? And why are you laughing? Thank you. I am a open water diver. I have those questions which are sometimes dumb. Also, it's okay to ask. And we're doing this for that reason, so he can laugh.
Oh, I'm just laughing at that. Something happened. You mean you were up late last night, having it was New Year's Eve or something, right? You know.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen, right? We're all different. We're all, it doesn't matter. Maybe I overate. It doesn't matter. Something happened and I don't feel very well. And well, of course, I'm not going to dive if I'm congested or something. But, what, like, in case if something happened during the dive while I'm in the water already,
Yeah.
while I'm like 18 meters down, what am I doing?
For sure. I mean, that does happen all the time, like regardless of, if you got the flu or, up late last night. Or a lot of times when you're on a dive and you're in particularly like surgy conditions where it's going back and forth, that can give people motion sickness on the dive. If you're going to throw up, you keep your regulator in your mouth the whole time until you're done, because what happens when you throw up, the first thing you generally do is you take a nice big breath in. And a lot of people want to take the regulator out because it's gross, and then you're going to breathe in a whole bunch of water. So you leave your regulator in your mouth, everything's going to go out, or most everything is going to go out. And then when you're done, you take your regulator out, you clean it out, purge it, the fish come around, they have a nice feast, and then you continue on your day. Or end the dive. Because once you've thrown up, if you don't immediately feel amazing, you should probably end the dive and just go back to the surface and maybe come back another day.
So the regulators are built in a way that, like, if something happens, then like I still will be okay, because as you said, this, like, one of our, just as humans, we do want to like take out things from our mouth and just to keep doing it. But it is also a part of the open water course, right, that to how to manage this and how to breathe properly, and then you can actually talk, and it is explained. And that's why we do want to take open water course and to become a diver to know this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have you practice throwing up in your regulator, but we do practice, clearing it, breathing from the regulator, taking it out, putting it back in. So we do all those basic skills. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's good to know that. Okay. Another question that I have is actually related to dry suits, because we are in Canada and we will talk about a little bit colder water time to time here. Why can't I just go? Okay, it's 10 degrees right now outside there. It's sunshine and it's beautiful, and I've been surfing, and my hands are all fine. Why do I even need to take dry suit? Like, okay, yes, you do usually say that, like, when I'm saying you, it's not you, but like the dive shops say that, like, yes, we recommend you to take, but I can handle it. I can handle cold. I'm also Russian, by the way. So I can handle cold. Tell me, please, why do I need to take certification, and why? What's like how cold it's actually going to be?
All right. So the first part of that question is, why do you need a certification to dive in a dry suit? Mainly because it is a completely new airspace to learn how to manage. Like most people, when they start diving, they have just the BCD, which is nice and small, compact, and it's pretty easy to manage. A dry suit covers your entire body, so you end up with an airspace that goes all the way down to your feet. You've got bends in your legs, and so when you're trying to manage that air bubble, a lot of times it gets trapped in places you didn't expect it to, and you don't know how to get it out. And then the inevitable conclusion is you end up upside down at the surface by your feet.
Yeah.
So if you don't do a course to learn how to use that, then that's going to be the result, and that can be very dangerous if that happens from deep, right? And you start going upside down and you go up really fast, you can't fix it, you're gonna you're risking a lot of problems. The second part to that is like, why would you even need to do one in anyways,
maybe
right?
It's not that cold.
Maybe you're not that cold. It's very personal, like individually, like everybody gets cold at different rates. So if you find you don't get cold that easily, you might be able to stick it out in a wetsuit a little bit longer. But generally, because we're underwater the whole time, so the neoprene that you used to wear that was 7 mil at the surface, when you go down to 30 meters, 100 feet to see some cool like sponges that we have here, it's going to be like 2 mil. So it compresses a lot, which you lose all that insulation. And so now you're at depth in water that's about 9 degrees kind of all year round. You're going to get cold a lot faster than you were at the surface when you were surfing. The other thing is, because you're not actively trying to move and use your energy, like when you're surfing, you're swimming a lot, you're doing all this stuff, you're making heat. When you're diving, if you do that, you're going to run out of air in like 15 minutes because you're breathing so hard, you're not going to have a very long dive. So you're trying to conserve that air, which means you're not going to be moving very much. And then so you're going to start to get cold a lot faster because you're wet, the neoprene's compressed, you're not moving very much. And then so if you find you're getting cold, you go into a dry suit where you're ideally dry. And then so you've got an air pocket that's keeping you dry. Air keeps you warmer. You got woolly, fleecy layers underneath, and then so you can just have longer dives, and it just extends out the time it takes to get cold. And then the other big difference that we have is because the water temperature doesn't change all year round, especially at depth, the biggest one is coming out of the water. So in the summertime, you come out of the water, you might be a little bit cold in a wetsuit, but it's 25, 30 degrees outside, it's sunny, you take off the wetsuit, you're like, oh, this is great. In the wintertime, if you do the same dive, you come out and it's like sleeting and 2 degrees and windy, you're just never going to warm up. And so that's the other benefit of dry suit, is when you come out of the water, you actually have the chance to warm up as opposed to just being cold and wet and miserable.
Last question for this video is about warming up. How do I pee
in a dry suit?
In a dry suit?
Well, in our rental dry suits, you never pee.
Please don't. Please don't pee.
I mean, realistically, you're probably going to get cold and go kind of short on air before you're going to need to that badly. A lot of people are used to relieving themselves in a wetsuit, kind of find that a bit of a struggle the first time. But if you really have to, I have heard of people wearing like adult diapers, which I'm not a huge fan of, because I've also heard of the compression squeezing and releasing whatever was in there, which is not great. You can get pee valves installed in your dry suit. So if you have your own dry suit and you find you really can't handle it, or you're doing really long dives that require you to stay underwater for longer, you can get a valve installed. It's a one-way valve that hooks up with some variety of gluing and sealing and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, personally, I've used them for longer, deeper dives. Unless you get really used to them, it's a really uncomfortable pee, because you don't know if it's working 100% right or not. So you're kind of just sitting there like, am I going to be wet or am I going to be okay? So if you don't have to use them, I would say don't, but you can definitely get stuff that works.
Okay, for all lovely people who have small bladder like me, you're welcome. I guess that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching us. It's kind of the video that we're gonna see if it's gonna work or not, if you guys even interested or not, and let us know in the comments. Subscribe and watch more diving things from Diving Sports.